Jordan, my medic, he survived the blast. We got him out somehow, and I think it was 2.5, 3 years later, he took his own life.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Time for another episode of Behind the Uniform. Super excited to be here. I've got you brought like a whole crew of dudes up here and a lady.
It's my posse.
Why don't you tell them all who you are?
My name's Joseph Cox. I served just under 17 years in the Army. I was in the 25th Infantry Division, then 3rd Squadron, 2nd Cavalry Stryker Regiment out of Germany, and then I went on to be an instructor there in Fort Polk, Louisiana until I retired in 2011.
Awesome. For those of you who have never seen the show before, the way that it rolls is this. We sit, we share a cocktail together. They tell you about a good day, about a bad day. You share this video because that's what patriotic Americans do. At any given time, we have a bottle of whiskey and a glass here at the whiskey wall in honor of those who will never be able to join us to tell their stories because they made the ultimate sacrifice. So brother, you want to talk about a good day first or about a bad day?
I always got to talk about the good days first.
I like that.
And there's tons of them. I mean, literally from the time I had an on-again, off-again love affair with the Army. You know, I came in, did a few years under Clinton, got out under downsizing, took quite a few years off, and then came back in when the war kind of got spiked up and decided to go infantry. 33 years old, went through basic training again. But I like to say I'm kind of like a cat. Anywhere I go, I land on my feet, and I'm just always surrounded by awesome people. So I've so many good stories. You know, I got stuck in the 25th Infantry. When we deployed, we were probably one of the better trained because we were one of the last to deploy. And man, we were just super trained, got great leadership. You know, my old first sergeant used to tell us that this is the unit that ruined the Army for us because we had senior officers that asked the opinion of junior NCOs. And they actually listened to them, and then the same thing, you know, all the NCOs and Joes respected the officers. So that was probably some of the better times, just, you know, getting to meet these people and just the people I got to work with. You know, like I said, I work with General Carrilla, really good guy. One of these days we'll break down some of his stories that he may or may not want me to tell.
Excellent.
A lot of things that went on in Moses behind the scenes.
Excellent. So talk to me a little bit about your time overseas.
The best way to describe it, and I'm pretty sure this goes for pretty much anybody that's ever served, it was probably one of the greatest times of my life, but it was also literally one of the worst times also. You know, we were in two high-profile units. You know, the 25th, we were there during the takedown of Mosul, and our battalion got stuck in West Mosul. Michael Yan wrote a big blog about it. I believe they called it the Gates of Hell or something. You know, we saw probably about the heaviest fighting when it came, because, you know, it was during the whole collapse of the Sunni Triangle. And in the second deployment, we were the final push of the surge, and we started operating along the Diallo River Valley where nobody had worked in years, and it was pretty rough. And we went in. Before that, we had to take down parts of Baghdad that was really out of control. But there again, great leadership. We had a lot of the guys from the old 25th unit that stayed with us, so we had a really good base going in because we had seasoned guys that had all worked together, and then we trained up all these young guys, and they were like sponges. They just ate it up. You know, I think one of the biggest things is watching these young kids, and they literally, that's what they were. You know, they were kids, 18, 19 years old, watching these kids grow up in a horrible situation, but just watching some of the decisions they made, how they handled themselves, and just, I still keep in contact with them today, and it just simply amazes me what these guys are doing.
Is there one day that you look back on and you'll never forget?
There's several. We had a lot of heavy casualties, and there's two of them that really stick out in my mind. On our first deployment, I had volunteered to go ADVON. So naturally, if you go ADVON, you go on mid-tour early. And we just started having really heavy fighting there in Mosul, and they sent me on mid-tour leave early. It was December, and that's when the Chow Hall bombing happened. And that was a rough one. There's where I really got the feeling of what it was like to be a family member back home, because obviously when that happens, you lose so many people at one time. They shut all communications down. So I spent literally the next 2 days sending emails, to the point my old first sergeant, I was sending him emails, and I was being pretty vocal about being unhappy. You know, like, hey, you need to fucking tell me what's going on. I need answers. And finally, he was able to get back with me. And he just, you know, it's bad. Come back.
For people who don't know about what happened there, walk them through.
Somehow, one of the local nationals that was being hired out got credentials, and he got in, and he intermixed with the KBR employees. And in the chow hall tent, he came out right behind the serving line, and he detonated a suicide vest, and it was loaded with ball bearings. So, I mean, the people that the blast itself didn't get, the ball bearings shattered everywhere. I had a real good friend of mine. He literally just had a hip replacement because of this, and he lost a pretty good chunk of intestine. Jeez. And I mean, he's got a chunk of his arm missing. It just beat him all to hell. One of our company commanders, Captain Jacobson, no physical marks on him, and he actually, for the first minute or so, was trying to help, and then he just kind of lost his breath and was like, I'm going to sit down for a minute, and then he collapsed and died. It was all internal injuries from the pressure. Jeez. And another one of our friends was there, was with Captain Jake. He was one of the snipers, and he's the one that made the decision of where they sat. And to this day, he still, in a way, blames himself, even though it really wasn't his fault, because he chose to sit there, and he lost his company commander because of where they were sitting. That's just the kind of things, we're not thinking about where we're sitting. If something happened right now, it wouldn't be your fault. It's just the way life is. But that was one, and then the second one, we were just moved into the Diala River Valley, our recon platoon, which was my old platoon and literally my old squad. We had moved in, and our section detached and moved up and around, and they were going to go check a house at one of the Mukhtars that came and told them that the bad guys were operating in. So they went in, and this is when the house-borne IEDs became real popular. So we had that group go in, and my medic at the time was on loan to them because their medic was on leave. They went in, and one of the guys hit a house-borne IED and set it off, and we lost 7 guys, to include our interpreter. Technically now we call it the Sentinel 8 because Jordan, my medic, he survived the blast. We got him out somehow, and I think it was 2.5, 3 years later, he took his own life. Oh, yeah. So his parents said, he lived just long enough to come back home and, say goodbye to everybody. Is pretty much what it was. He had actually came down on Veterans Day one weekend, spent the weekend down at my house. His dad was wanting me to get him help because he was in and out of rehab because he was self-medicating. And he came down, hung out for the weekend, told me he's got to go home, that he felt good. He went home, and within 5 days his dad was calling me and telling him he's gone. So.
We hear so many stories about guys who survive the battle in Iraq, Afghanistan, other war-torn countries, and then come back here and lose the battle in their living rooms and in their cars. You've experienced this with friends.
A lot.
What message can you give to those who are battling those demons right now?
There's no shame in getting help, man. I mean, when we were deployed, there was nothing you wouldn't go to your buddy for, nothing you wouldn't do for your friend. And I've said it a million times. It's partially on them. A lot of times when you lose someone to suicide, there's a lot of anger on our part, because why didn't you reach out? But at the same time, with that anger, there's a lot of self-hate because why didn't I reach out? We suffered it with some friends, and a lot of it is we have that disconnect through the internet and this and that. On Facebook, you can manipulate the pixels on Facebook, and you can show me whatever face you want. And I'm sure you, just like the rest of us, you've been through enough suicide classes. You're borderline expert. You know what to hide, and you know how to hide it. The biggest thing I can say is, mainly to the people that are in a good place, contact your buddies. And don't wait for them to tell you about the problems. Tell them about your problems, and I'll almost guarantee you 9 times out of 10 you're going to hear, I thought I was the only one. Because that's what we hear a lot. But the biggest thing is just reach out, get help, The only way tomorrow is going to be crappy and not work out for you is if you don't live to see it.
No doubt. Guys, it takes you 2 seconds to share this video, to share these stories. Every single time somebody shares these, we get messages all the time from people whose lives are impacted by you guys sharing your stories. So
helping someone's literally, this simple, Just sitting down here today, we're gonna swap stories. We're gonna impact each other's lives, and we're gonna, I'm gonna know you care, you're gonna know I care, and I know, at some point in life I could probably call you back and we could have a conversation. Might change the course of one of our days, one of our lives.
Well, brother, you and everyone else who comes on the show always has a seat at the whiskey wall. So, Thanks for coming, brother.
Thanks for opening up. And I might be back.
Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing this video. God bless America.